you can just run into a couple good Patricks. Even a little confusion there. It's no Chapin, but Dickmann is no slouch. That's for sure. And the funny thing here is, I always love this thing that happens in Magic, where you sit across from someone and it's like, well, I know what you're playing. Because if you sit across from Patrick Dickmann, and Ben knows who Patrick is, it's like, okay, well, you're playing Team or Twin, that's fine. Well, okay, well, can you beat him playing Team or Twin? Because that's really hard to do.
I think there's a good recipe here in Ben Stark's deck. You got Path to Exile, a couple discard spells, Abrupt Decays, good removal spells for the combo, backed up by a pretty solid clock, and a good late game. He's not necessarily outclassed as the game goes on longer by things like Snapcaster Mage and Cryptic Command, because he's got his own late game in cards like Collected Company and Gavany Township. I think there's a solid recipe here.
Dickmann going to start off with a Scalding Tarn, searching up a Breeding Pool. We'll see what he has in the first turn of the game. It'll be a Serum Visions. So, draw a card. Looks to be a Steam Vents. Now it's time to scry 2. And we are underway here in round number 9 of 9 today. Been a fun tournament to watch so far.
I really enjoy covering Modern.
I do too.
I feel like there's a ton going on in the games, and there's very few non-games.
Yeah, I mean, some games are fast, some games are slow. Got to fight through hate after sideboard because the hate cards are so good. And when you get to see, you know, decks like this, there's going to be a lot of interaction back and forth, you have to imagine.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely.
Here's a Noble Hierarch for Ben. He'll sacrifice a Marsh Flats. Looks like he's on his way to 17 as well. See what land is going to play.
These decks they have a good mixture of doing powerful stuff on the board while threatening powerful stuff in their hands. So there's going to be a lot of back and forth. There's going to be nuts and bolts creature combat involved in these games too. And there's also going to be jockeying for position and playing around particular cards on both sides.
It's a Temple Garden here for Ben. Patrick with a Tarmogoyf. It's foil 1. Must be a fan of Pascal Maynard. Build foil Tarmogoyf. I think we know what he would have done.
I get the reference.
Do you?
It's that thing that happened that people
do you understand?
were very agitated about.
I had a feeling you'd be joining me with that. It's a Voice of Resurgence here. So if Patrick has a card like a Lightning Bolt to take care of Noble Hierarch, he's probably interested in doing that. Tarmogoyf currently, sitting at a 2/3 sorcery and land in the graveyard. Misty Rainforest here for Patrick. An attack with a Tarmogoyf. Dickmann's going to sacrifice a land. Now he'll play Deceiver Exarch, untap, Lightning Bolt the Noble Hierarch. Get maximum value out of that turn. As now Tarmogoyf's going to become a 4/5 instant creature added.
Another merit to having Tarmogoyf in the deck. You can capitalize on people's land light draws a lot better than when you're sitting exclusively on the combo. Patrick here really turning up the pressure very early.
What's interesting is some people may ask, why doesn't Dickmann just do all of that pre-combat and then attack? Well, if he does it pre-combat and then attack, maybe Ben blocks.
Yeah.
So this way he got 4 points of damage in. And now Ben might say, okay, now I'm going to start blocking.
Give him the least amount of information possible in the spot where he has to make a decision, and then do whatever it is you're going to do.
Ben will take 4 more. He's not ready to start blocking with Voice Resurgence just yet. Let's see what's next here for Dickmann. Copy of Vendilion Click, new school from Modern Masters.
I did not immediately recognize
Well,
that.
Ben is all done here. And truth be told, it looks like a hasty concession. I love the concession here by Ben. Ben is very smart. And he knows he's not winning that game. And what Ben is playing is very unorthodox. It's an Abzan Company deck, but you wouldn't be able to draw that from what you've seen. So Ben's hand might have things like Eternal Witness in it and Collected Company. You don't want to give that information away, so he concedes right away. The chances of him winning that game are very, very low. I love the concession.
And also, the most likely scenario there from Patrick, because, you know, Ben is not casting anything, he's still on 1 land, is he's just playing Vendilion Click to look at the hand. He's not going to put anything on the bottom. He's just trying to extract information. So if you know you're dead to the board, he's not going to let you draw a card there. Just pick up your stuff, give him as little information as possible.
That's exactly what Stark did do. Patrick Dickmann up a game here over Ben Stark. Team or Twin up a game over Abzan Company. You take a look at the sideboards. We will start with Ben Stark. Again, he's playing a value Collected Company deck, not a combo one. Wonder what's in the sideboard.
4 copies of Fulminator Mage, 2 copies of Thoughtseize, an Abrupt Decay, a Path to Exile, 2 copies of Burden Forge Tender, 2 Stony Silence, 3 Lingering Souls. I like bringing in the additional removal spells here. I think the Abrupt Decay and the Path to Exile are no-brainers. I think the Thoughtseizes and Burton Forge Centers, there's borderline cases for. Patrick's playing combo deck. Thoughtseize is pretty potent there, although Patrick can also kind of play a normal game plan with Tarmogoyf, so maybe Thoughtseize, maybe not. Same deal with Burton Forge Center. It is a little bit of protection against red removal, but it is also a low-impact card. I like in this matchup the 3 copies of Lingering Souls. Lingering Souls is pretty good in any normal game of Magic. Some games of Modern, some matchups are so fast that Lingering Souls can participate, but Patrick is playing with a combo, but he is a bit on the slower side. He's likely to become even slower post-board, and I think Ben is well-served bringing in his copies of Lingering Souls.
Other side of things here for Patrick, a Keranos Goddess Storms, 2 Thragtusk, a Desolate Lighthouse. It's fun to see in the board. A Dispel and a Gate, a Counterflux, 2 Pyroclasm, 2 Ancient Grudge, Nature's Claim, a Spellskite, a Roast, and an Is It Static Caster.
So I think you're definitely going to see the 2 copies of Pyroclasm come in, the Roast and the Is It Static Caster. I don't know if Patrick's going to want to go to things like Thragtusk. If Ben's playing just kind of a generic beatdown deck, Thragtusk is really powerful, but if he's doing some sort of combo, Collected Company style thing, Thragtusk is a lot less potent. But I really like the sweepers and the repeat removal and Is It Static Caster.
Static Caster, typically really good against these Abzan decks. I know that Patrick didn't really see a lot, but he's a really smart guy when it comes to Modern too, one of Modern's best players. And when you see a card like Noble Hierarch, Temple Garden, and Voice of Resurgence, you can draw a conclusion of what your opponent's up to.
Yeah, pretty good bet that there's things like Eternal Witness, Birds of Paradise, other elves.
Yeah, some targets.
Yeah. And you compare it with your other removal spells like Lightning Bolt. Sometimes you'll be able to take down a Tarmogoyf. I think the Static Caster definitely comes in. Lingering Souls, worried about that. Static Caster actually developed that text box with Lingering Souls in mind.
Yep.
Back when R&D was worried about Lingering Souls' long-term implications in Standard.
Take a look here at a question from Stephen Ketchison. Hopefully I got your last name right, Stephen. Wondering, do we think that Jund is the best deck right now? If so, would you say that the power of Kolaghan's Command made it insanely good?
I think that Jund is among the better decks in the format, and I think Command is a pretty powerful removal spell in a deck that gets to choose between a lot of really powerful removal spells. Kolaghan's Command definitely improves certain things, but I don't think that tips it over the edge.
Yeah, for me, I don't really think there is a best deck. I think there are a lot of good decks. I think there are a lot of powerful decks. But I don't think there's a best deck. I think that Jund is one of the better options that you can be playing right now. But if Jund becomes really good, I wouldn't be surprised to see Abzan show up and be really good.
There's a lot of good responses to Jund at the extreme ends of the format.
Yeah.
Big mana decks and decks that can kill very quickly typically line up well against Jund.
You can definitely keep that deck in check.
Yes.
Maybe before, when Deathrite Shaman and Bloodbraid Elf were part of the picture, you couldn't. But even then, I think you could argue that you could. But now, with what's available, I think you can figure out ways to beat that deck.
Well, we know there's recipes. I mean, Jund was not very good at the Players' Championship last week. And a lot of that had to do with the presence of Amulet and Tron making deep runs.
Yeah. And even some players like Jerry Thompson who were playing Jund this weekend. Not a good weekend.
Not a good weekend, no.
Certainly depends on the pairings and what you run into.
Though, the one 8-0 player we're watching on our Players to Watch, Andrew Boswell, doing very well with Jund. Odin Turnwald also doing well, taking his only loss in the mirror match to Andrew Boswell.
Very true. Very true. Jund, always potent in Modern. Just wouldn't say it's the best deck. I'd say it's a good deck among many good decks.
Right.
And given by the records of these two players, looks like Teamer Twin and Abzan Company are good decks as well. So we'll see if Ben Stark can tie things up here. Last hand did not come together very well. But that's why it's 2 out of 3, of course. Not best of 1. We'll see what Ben can figure out here for the next game.
And I'm interested to see how much of the combo, again, I say this every time we watch Twin on camera, but you saw a Temple Garden. So that looks like the kind of deck where your combo is going to be good to go.
Yeah.
But I think if Patrick knows that he's playing against Abrupt Decay, likely some amount of it gets bailed on.
That's exactly why you saw Ben concede the game so early, to conceal that information, perhaps. Ben going to lay out his opening hand. We'll see if he can find 7 cards that he's happy with. That face does not really bring a lot of confidence along with it.
Yeah.
I've known Ben for a long time. Not really one to kind of fake emotion and keep the hand out.
That's not his style.
No, his style is basically playing perfect every turn and just being honest at the table.
And when he draws up an opening hand like that and starts shaking his head, that one's going back.
Yeah.
It's just, Might take a couple seconds, but he knows the minute he draws up that 7, it's going back.
And maybe a touch of frustration, but that's about it.
Yeah, I mean, you saw one land in the first game, and now taking a mulligan to 6, and the mulligan going to be even more punishing this time around because your opponent's probably boarded in more removal and all that. But yeah, Ben's not one to Hollywood for the camera.
Yeah.
It's not his style.
Yeah, you're always in this interesting situation when you're playing in round number 9. You're already locked for day 2. The highs and lows of playing in round 9. You win, you're 8-1. You're in great shape. You can even take a loss tomorrow. You lose, you're 7-2. No losses to give.
Yeah, and especially for Dickmann, who was 7-0. I mean, the difference between 8-1 and losing your last 2 to go 7-2 feels a lot different. Is a lot different.
The emotions of Magic. One of my favorite parts of the game. Patrick right now, he's up a game. His opponent didn't do very much, and his opponent's mulliganing. I bet you ask him right now, he's pretty happy with how things are going.
Yep.
But if he were to lose this game all of a sudden, maybe not as pleased. Let's see if Ben can find a better 6. He will keep. And he will begin things with a discard spell. It's a Thoughtseize. Take a look at Patrick's hand here. Splinter Twin, Pestermite, along with a Snapcaster Mage. The lands, an island, a Steam Vents, a Sulphur Falls, and a Ghost Quarter.
Solid opening hand, but not very much to be done about with this hand for the time being if Ben goes ahead and takes that Splinter Twin. But if Ben has something like Abrupt Decay in hand, he might say, okay, you get to keep that, and I'll take the Snapcaster Mage and try to play the value game with you.
Snapcaster Mage, probably the more powerful card in hand over Splinter Twin, but as you mentioned, it depends on what's in Ben's hand.
Yeah.
It is notable that Ben had to start this game off with basic Swamp. No fetch land, maybe search up a dual and anything like that. Actually, Ben going to go with Pestermite in this situation.
Kind of deads the Splinter Twin. Snapcaster Mage not up to very much right now.
Steam Vents on the battlefield tapped. Ben will play an Overgrown Tomb tapped. Dickmann will draw a card. Looks like he picked up a Tarmogoyf last turn. Let's see if he has green mana this turn. He does not. Just a copy of Sulphur Falls, pass the turn back over to Stark. Stark going to cross off the cards off the list. Steam Vents and Sulphur Falls, cards that he knew about. Marsh Flats is what Ben will sacrifice here. Patrick looks to be replacing a torn sleeve off of his Steam Vents as Ben in search of a Plains. So all 3 colors are here for Ben's Obzon Company deck. Let's see what he can actually do with them now. We'll start with Knight of the Reliquary. Some murmurs of this card being popular coming in this tournament.
Well, there was some discussion about this backed up by Ghost Quarter being a good plan against the big mana decks. Knight of the Reliquary, it's pretty vulnerable. You know, it will eat up Abrupt Decay in a lot of matchups a good percentage of the time, but when you untap with this card, you get a huge advantage pretty fast.
Stark will take a draw step. Active Knight. He'll start by playing a Forest. And now here's a discard spell and Thoughtseize. You'll see Dickmann's hand here. 2 Snapcaster Mages, Splinter Twin, Ancient Grudge, Tarmogoyf, and Ghost Quarter. Pretty awkward one here for Patrick.
Yeah. I mean, the Twin seems like the card to take here because nothing else really does anything. The Goyf's not castable, and there's no spells for the Snapcaster Mages. But the Splinter Twin is also just so anemic in this hand with nothing to pair it with.
Yeah, this is such a strange hand because there's really not a lot that Patrick can actually do with this hand right now.
Right. Sometimes Thoughtseizes are really hard because someone's hand's very good, and sometimes Thoughtseizes are really hard because someone's hand is so bad.
Yeah.
And it feels like it doesn't really matter too much what I choose here.
It's weird to call a hand with 2 Snapcaster Mages, a Splinter Twin, and a Tarmogoyf bad, but it's actually about as bad as it can be.
Yeah, you can see Ben's, he's like, look at his face. Just like, well, whatever. I mean, everything here kind of stinks. The Splinter Twin protects me if something gets drawn off the top.
Can I just take my Thoughtseize back? Cast it later?
Patrick, you choose. Doesn't really matter too much.
Anything but Ancient Grudge you get to choose. How about that? Looks like there goes Tarmogoyf. See what Ben's follow-up is going to be. It's a copy of Tarmogoyf of his own. And now Knight's going to come across here for, it looks like, 4 points of damage. Maybe. It might look like he's actually going to activate it. Sacrifice a forest. Make the Knight a little bit bigger. Maybe he'll search for a fetch land, build it up that way. He will. Sacrifice a Marsh Flats. And now Temple Garden. So perhaps the reason Ben doing this right now, get it out of roast range maybe.
Yeah, just get it as big as possible while Patrick has nothing going on in his hand.
Yeah. There's Ghost Quarter. He's certainly doing that on his main phase on purpose. That's no accident. Patrick may have drawn a copy of Cryptic Command here. He has 2 of those in his main deck. And it appears he has. He's going to Cryptic Command Knight of the Reliquary. And draw a card.
And we're a ways away from it, but Ben better win this game pretty quickly because now those Snapcaster Mages in Patrick's hand become problematic long-term concerns with the Cryptic Command.
Becomes a real card now.
Yeah.
Saw Ben play Noble Hierarch pre-combat, a little exalted action, of course, for the Tarmogoyf. Makes an attack, I believe, for 5. So Dickmann down to 15. Now the Reliquary post-combat. A couple lands in the graveyard. Knight looks to be a 5/5 as well. Steam events at a passing of the turn there from Dickmann. Back to Stark. Stark looking to put a close on this game pretty quickly if he can, as you mentioned, because of Snapcaster Mage and Cryptic Command. Eternal Witness. This will be pre-combat to get discards back in Thoughtseize. Let's see the grip. Land number 6 is there in Scalding Tarn. 2 Snapcaster Mages, Splinter Twin, and Ancient Grudge. Ben knew most of this stuff. Scalding Tarn can provide the green mana that Patrick is looking for too.
The second Snapcaster Mage does not seem like it does very much. The first Snapcaster Mage accomplishes the same thing. There's only 1 spell in the graveyard. This is just a question of whether or not Ben thinks he's liable to get killed if Pester Might or Deceiver Exarch get drawn off the top.
Sure. If that's the case, you kind of want to take Splinter Twin?
Yeah.
I think it's between Twin and Snapcaster.
Well, the Ancient Grudge is...
Yeah, the Grudge is not really
doing anything.
I don't even know if it's appropriate for this matchup, but Patrick didn't know that going in, obviously, since he didn't see any information in game number 1, which is part of the reason why Ben conceded so early game number 1, is to conceal that information. Decisions here for Stark. The Hall of Famer is going to take care of the Splinter Twin. He'll write down the rest of the hand. And now he'll crash in with the Tarmogoyf and now the Reliquary. Tarmogoyf just got a little bit bigger because there's an enchantment in the graveyard. Stark will just pass the turn back, hoping that this is good enough. As you mentioned, he's got to worry about Snapcaster Mage on Cryptic Command now.
Yeah, I mean, he gets fogged out of next turn, but that's not a long-term solution to Patrick's problems.
Patrick wants to make sure he knows exactly what that 5/5 down the Reliquary is going to do. Any spicy lands in Ben's deck?
A copy of Horizon Canopy and 2 copies of Gavany Township.
Okay. So nothing too crazy. Hinterland Harbor, the play there for Dickmann. That's important to note because Ben knew all the cards in his hand, so Hinterland Harbor was the draw.
Yep.
Cryptic Command on the upkeep here from Patrick. It's going to tap all the creatures and draw a card, you have to imagine. Ben going to sacrifice a Plains, get a Horizon Canopy off of his Knight of the Reliquary. Now he'll draw using Noble Hierarch. Good sequencing there from Ben.
Yep.
No surprise, of course. Now he does draw. The creatures will be tapped. Dickmann will draw from Cryptic Command. And now here's a Noble Hierarch. There is a Windswept Heath. And pass the turn. Serum Vision's a card here for Dickmann. He will cast that, take a draw. Looks like a copy of Breeding Pool. 2 cards here for Patrick.
It's like another Snapcaster into Spell. Spell, another card of questionable value here post-board against Ben.
Here's Snapcaster Mage. Gonna flashback Serum Visions. He's really looking for help. Take a draw. I believe a Thrag Tusk. Now, that card is good in this matchup.
Yep.
So he got that one right. But again, Dickmann had to guess when sideboarding. Probably try to hedge his bets against a bunch of different stuff.
Right, it's a tough matchup for him to sideboard because he saw a Noble Hierarch, a Temple Guard, and a Voice of Resurgence, which could imply green-white hate bears, or it can imply some Bat deck, or Obzon, or Naya Beatdown. I mean, it's very hard to sideboard here. He's going to be hedging a little bit there in game 2. But now he knows what's up.
So we're going to stay on top there for Patrick. Breeding Pool into the battlefield, tap, pass the turn back. Ben's going to very quickly sacrifice a fetch land here.
The problem here is Thrag Tusk is pretty low impact compared to Ben's board.
Yeah.
And Patrick's going to be chump blocking both the large creatures this turn, most likely.
And if Ben has a removal spell here, it might just be lights out.
Yeah.
Ben going to untap. He'll take a draw here. In come the creatures. And there are your chump blocks. 2 damage to be dealt. Dickmann going to go down to 3 from the Eternal Witness hit. Nice thing here for Ben, too, is you don't have to worry about a card like Wrath of God or Supreme Verdict or anything like that.
And you can be very aggressive just playing everything out here.
Scavenging Ooze is going to be played here by Ben. Access to 3 green mana with the Temple Guard and 2 Noble Hierarchs at this point. So that'll slow down any graveyard nonsense from Snapcaster Mage. Sulfur Falls. Thrag Tusk. Dickmann going to go up to 8. There's a Tarmogoyf. Fair enough. Ben gonna eat some creatures here, gain a little bit of life.
Pretty rare for Thrag Tusk to be outclassed by this degree, but Ben can conceivably generate 3 creatures at least as large.
Scavenging Ooze does eat 3 creatures. 5/5 now. Ben gonna take a look at Thrag Tusk. It's been a while.
Yeah. Used to be all over the place.
Oh, everyone knew what Thrag Tusk did way back in the day. Crazy to think that was basically 2 years ago. Jeez, we've been doing this a little while. There's an Abrupt Decay. Everybody come on in. Naz gonna get the job done. Ben Stark is gonna win game number 2 here over Patrick Dickmann. Obzon Company and Teamer Twin gonna get ready for game number 3. A little bit of frustration here for Patrick.
Yeah, not sure. Patrick's draw there was a little bit awkward. You had that Ancient Grudge the whole game, not really doing anything and so forth. But you got to wonder if he was a little bit frustrated by just not having enough information to sideboard correctly. We saw some sketchy cards get drawn that game.
Fortunately for him, he gets to fix that now.
Yeah. But that's the value of Ben conceding that first game rather than playing it out.
And it might lead to a match win now here for Ben, because now he gets to play kind of a normalized game 3. And Ben, of course, knows what Patrick's up to because, well, he knows what Patrick plays.
I'm looking over this, 0 copies of artifacts in Ben's 75. And he got to play against Ancient Grudge that game.
Not a bad spot to be in.
But concealing information is an underrated skill. I think people play out games that are hopeless too far. I think people show situational cards in games that they can't possibly win, or sometimes they show them in games where they can't possibly lose, which is the other thing. And your opponent gets better sideboarding information. I mean, it seems We don't know if that determines the outcome of that game, but certainly Ben picked up an edge there in game 2 with him knowing exactly what Dickmann was up to and Patrick guessing a little bit, as we saw from the cards that were being drawn.
Knowing when to conceal and reveal information, it's a real skill in Magic.
Yeah.
And it looks like Ben's concession in game number 1 certainly helped him get game number 2. And now he's all set for game number 3. You saw the frustration from Patrick after game number 2. Again, you have to imagine it's because of the sideboarding that he did there. So we'll see what he can find here for this 3rd and final game of his Saturday. And he will get to play first this game too, which is always nice. We do want to thank you guys at home for joining us for most of the day. It's been a lot of fun to cover all these matches of Modern, get to watch the very best do battle here at Grand Prix Charlotte. Some players I didn't even expect to see here. I mean, if you follow Patrick Dickmann on Twitter or Facebook, he took a 10-hour flight and then an 11-hour drive.
Yeah, it wasn't like he flew from Germany to Charlotte.
No.
He flew to New York.
And then drove. Yeah. Either he really needs pro points or he is that confident in his Modern skills, or both.
Could be both.
Yeah. But for the over 12,000 of you that are watching right now, we appreciate having you. Of course, I am Cedric Phillips. He is Patrick Sullivan. We've got Nick Miller and Ken Crocker in the sideboard, along with the rest of the SCG Live crew, bringing you all the Modern action you can handle today and tomorrow. Unfortunately, our last round today, well, you'll be able to watch a replay of everything that did take place at the conclusion of our coverage of this round, late into the night, if you'd like. And tomorrow morning, we come back bright and early, 9 a.m. East Coast time for 6 more rounds of action. Then we cut to a top 8, and eventually we'll crown ourselves a champion here at this almost 3,000 person Grand Prix.
And we got the full 9 too. We got action starting at round 1, so the archives are pretty deep. A lot of matches to go over.
Yep. Well, they've been fun to watch so far. A lot of Amulet Bloom, a lot of Jund, a lot of different takes on Grixis. If you're Patrick Chapin or Grixis Control, we've seen a lot of Grixis Twin, even a little bit of Grixis Delver in the hands of Greg Orange this weekend. Teamer Twin being played by Todd Anderson, of course, as well as Patrick Dickmann. And then even this Abzan Company deck, not the Brian Braun-Duin version with the combo, but just a normalized kind of value version here by Ben Stark.
Abzan Company stuff. No combos, nothing too fancy here. A lot of value, 3 catching fakes, 4 copies of Eternal Witness. So some juicy stuff to get back. But just trying to stay with the blue decks, going along with Gavney Township Collecting Company, Voice of Resurgence, Eternal Witness. You can muck up the board against other creature decks.
A player who's done very well in the Open Series, but we haven't seen have a lot of Pro Tour Grand Prix success just yet. Aaron Barrett, he's 8-0 with Infect coming into this round.
Very impressive win over Burn, too.
Yes.
Very impressive win.
A bright future for that young kid from Mississippi. But 2 veterans of the game right now in front of us here in Patrick Dickmann and Benjamin Stark. A handful of Pro Tour top 8s between them. A Pro Tour champion in Ben Stark at Pro Tour Paris. And of course, he is a Hall of Famer too. Someone you and I have known for a pretty long time.
Yes.
And you know what? He's rooting for LeBron in the finals. So
Miami Heat fan?
Yeah, what's not to love?
Appreciates the 4 finals appearances and the 2 titles.
Yes. He's no front runner like all you Warriors fans. He appreciates good basketball and the best player in the game. So how can you not love Ben Stark? I think my Cleveland bias might be showing
a little bit. It's okay. It comes in fits and spurts.
Yeah.
It's hard to avoid.
Misty Rainforest searching up a steam vents here for Patrick. That's why he's at 19. You saw Stark kick off the game with the Temple Garden into a Noble Hierarch. We saw this game number 1. Ben didn't play many lands after that, so maybe he can improve this time.
Pyroclasm in hand. I think Patrick is looking to get a little bit more out of it.
Marsh Flat's going to be sacrificed here by Ben. Understandable. Don't really want to trade 1 for 1 with the old Pyroclasm here.
It depends what you're worried about someone ramping into. But, you know, if Ben goes, all right, fetch land, play play Knight of the Reliquary, which is outside Pyroclasm range, maybe it looks bad.
Well, now we're going to see if Ben even cares about the Pyroclasm, because here's a Thoughtseize. Well, there are 2 Pyroclasms, so you can't have them both. Here's a Lightning Bolt, too. Elephant Island and Hinterland Harbor. Looks like a Vendilion Click is hiding underneath that Hinterland Harbor.
With the second Pyroclasm in hand along with Vendilion Click, if I was in Patrick's position, I think I would have just cast the Pyroclasm on turn 2. Because the second one, not super clear how good that's going to be, and on top of that, it's a little awkward with the Vendilion Click.
Vendilion Click going to bite the dust. Here's a Tarmogoyf. Pass that turn back. Good start from Ben.
Yeah, that's a great opening.
Look at the size here for the Tarmogoyf in just a moment.
Creature sorcery land.
And it's going to be a 3/4 at this point. We could see a turn here from Patrick where he does play Pyroclasm and then Lightning Bolt the Tarmogoyf.
Yeah, it's not bad.
It's not a bad exchange. You're not too upset with that.
And there's only so much to be done with the Pyroclasm now that Ben knows about them.
Yeah.
Before you can say, all right, I'll be patient here and hopefully he'll deploy more into it. But now you got to play it a little more straight up.
Steam Fence. That was the weapon of choice there for Patrick off of his Scalding Tarn. Here's a Gitaxian Probe. Let's see what Ben's working with over here. A Voice of Resurgence, Eclectic Company, a Noble Hierarch, and a Verdant Catacombs. So now Patrick got a better idea of what he's up against.
This is a great hand here for Ben because that line of play that you mentioned, Patrick doing, you go ahead, you Pyroclasm, you bolt, trade 2 for 2, clear off Ben's board. Ben fires back with another mana creature and Voice of Resurgence and has Collected Company to cap it all off. That's just a really strong hand for Ben.
There's the Pyroclasm, there's the Bolt. Ben knows the exchange is coming, as does Patrick, so they let that happen. They move forward with life. Now Ben's going to reload. A Verdant Catacombs into a Noble Hierarch. Just going to pass the turn back. The mana's
yes,
just a touch
yeah,
awkward here.
That swamp there prevents him from curving out as efficiently as possible.
Yeah. And what's interesting about that, I believe Ben searched up that swamp at the fetch land.
Well, his life total does matter in the matchup. I mean, at the time, I understood the logic. You don't want to take 2 for no reason in this matchup, but now the way this game has developed, it has come back to bite him.
Now here's a timely Electrolyze there from Patrick to take care of the Noble Hierarch. I also think that part of the reason maybe he searched up that swamp, maybe he was afraid of a card like Blood Moon.
Sure.
Since it's so popular this weekend, especially from Twin decks. And it's not a hard deck, it's not a hard card, excuse me, for Timber Twin to play.
I think the most likely scenario, it's one of those spots where this doesn't feel like it matters, and I might as well save myself the 2 damage. But then you get to a turn where you want to cast Voice of Resurgence and Noble Hierarch and can't, and it's really bad.
Overgrown Tomb. This is what Ben has searched up here. You saw him go from 15 to 13, took 1 from the fetch line and 1 from the Electrolyze.
The Teamer Twin decks, they got Tarmogoyf, even cards like Pestermite can apply pressure. You're playing with Thoughtseize. You want to be able to Eternal Witness back Thoughtseize. It is worth making some effort to protect your life total, but he did get burned a little bit that one turn.
Ben did not have land number 4 for Collected Company, but he did have Noble Hierarch number 3. So Collected Company may be coming online next turn. We'll see where Patrick wants to begin. It'll be a Serum Visions. So he'll draw a card. A little scry action here. Thrak Tusk Breeding Pool. I believe the card's Patrick looking at. See if Patrick can navigate his way through this. Pyroclasm. Take care of the Noble Hierarch yet again. Does he have a Lightning Bolt to go along with it to take care of the Tarmogoyf? He's got a forest, he'll pass the turn back, maybe hoping Ben doesn't draw a land for Collected Company. Ben will quickly draw a card. Didn't get a great look at it, did not appear to be a land. Start by attacking for 4. Now here's a Voice of Resurgence. Looks like the card that Ben drew was a copy of Abrupt Decay. As we'll head back Dickman's way. There's just a Lighthouse, and there is a Thragtusk to play the role of Roadblock. That's what he wants Thragtusk to do.
This is a much more solid board for Thragtusk than we saw in game 1, where Ben had multiple huge creatures, and Patrick was behind at the time it came in. Now the board's kind of at parity. It's potentially really bad news for Patrick if Ben does draw land number 4 for Collecting Company, but right now, Thragtusk has a lot to stabilize his board.
Patrick up to 17 with the 5/3 out there that can trade with Tarmogoyf and leave a beast token behind. It's funny. I think some of us may forget just how good Thragtusk is. That card's no joke.
It's really good when the game's slowed down a little bit.
Yeah.
It's about slogging through on the ground. Now, not that many games of Modern are like that, and so it's relegated just to sideboards. But when the matchup's right, it's very, very powerful.
So let's see what's next here for Ben. Clearly has not found land number 4 for a Collected Company. He's going to come across here with Tarmogoyf. Patrick wants to confirm its size, perhaps. Again, it is a 4/5 right now. It's tough to pass up a trade there with Thragtusk when you get to leave a beast behind.
This is where you get the kind of the full value scenario, you know. It probably trades the removal spell from Ben's side, and that's a lot to get out of a Thragtusk.
There's your beast token. Looks like me and Patrick just drawn a Tarmogoyf now. Pass the turn back. Here's Abrupt Decay to take care of Tarmogoyf. Now Ben will draw. Looks like he still can't find the land. He's got a Scavenging Ooze, though. Not a bad replacement. Pass the turn back. Voice Resurgence obviously can't attack. Patrick going to activate Desolate Lighthouse. Picked up a copy of Cryptic Command. He'll discard a copy of Counterflux. Dickmann will draw. Looks like he found a copy of Roast. He's going to Roast Scavenging Ooze. He does not want his graveyard messed with. And in a deck that has Snapcaster Mage and Tarmogoyf, it's understandable.
And also, you know, Ben gets this thing up to a 6/6 pretty easily, and then it's outside removal range.
Ben going to remove Thragtusk to gain a life. Nothing better to do. Now here comes the beast token. Ben will draw. It looks like he still can't find land number 4. Here comes Voice of Resurgence.
Attention players, if you have a record
Is it time to cast that Thoughtseize?
Well, the thing is, I think Ben might feel like that last card's probably just a land, and his two life matters a lot because he goes from 11 to 9 and he's getting hit in increments of 3 right now.
Once again, players, if you have 21
We know that last card's not a land. That last card's Cryptic Command.
for day 2,
Well, then this is a great Thoughtseize.
day 2 will
Yeah.
begin at 9 a.m. promptly.
Patrick's going to cast that.
Please be
And now Ben gets an Elemental token off the Voice of Resurgence. Perhaps a mistake to cast that.
Yeah, I'm not sure what's going on with this Cryptic Command right now. Drawing a card isn't very good in the face of the Thoughtseize that's still on this deck.
Perhaps an error there. But also now perhaps we see the beast token go on defense.
Yep.
Serum Visions. Draw a card. I believe a copy of Remand has been found. A little scry action here from Patrick. Split the difference, one on top, one on the bottom. Oh, he's going to keep going beatdowns. Yes, he is. Stark are going to go down to 8. Also by not countering that Thoughtseize. Here's a copy of Tarmogoyf. Excuse me, by countering Thoughtseize, Ben is still got a lot of life. Now here's another Abrupt Decay. This is getting ugly here now. Because all of a sudden, if Ben maybe finds that land for Collected Company, which he just still can't seem to find, things could really shift here.
And if it's not a land, it's a spell.
That's
and
true.
basically everything else is castable at this point.
There really are not a lot of misses here in Ben Stark's deck. His deck is mostly spells that cost 3 mana or less because he's playing Collected Company. His most expensive spell appears to be Collected Company, and he's got 1 stuck in his hand. He'll come across here for 4 points of damage. Patrick will go down to 11. Dickmann will draw. Looks like a copy of Serum Visions. Take a draw. Take a look at 2 cards here.
Pretty excruciating game for Ben. You got to feel like, you know, you draw land number 4 at any point here on time, and you're going to get a pretty big edge.
And it looks like Dickmann found another copy of Cryptic Command, so he can get a little bit aggressive here. He'll come in here for 3. Stark going to go down to 5, pass the turn back. Stark going to quickly untap and take a draw.
And now, say an untapped Ravnica dual land comes with some pretty serious risks.
It sure does.
Falling to 3 here, facing down a beast and deck with lightning bolts in it. Not where you want to be.
Ben will pass the turn back. Dickmann will draw a card. 3 more. Ben, Path to Exile. See if this resolves. How aggressive does Dickmann want to be with a card like Cryptic Command here?
I think Dickmann's got to be looking at playing the short game here, because Ben's been sitting there with Collected Company forever. I'm not looking to play 3 more turns or 4 more turns if I'm in Dickmann's spot.
It looks like he is going to be casting Cryptic Command. Of course, the modes will be interesting here. Perhaps counter bounce a token. Maybe counter bounce Voice of Resurgence. A lot of different ways he can go. He's going to go counter bounce a token. Stark's going to go down to 2. Dickmann will pass the turn back. Stark going to quickly untap and draw.
I believe that's it.
Well, Collected Company is online now. And Ben's going to cast it. And that's a huge draw right there, because if Dickmann does remand this, Ben gets a token.
Well, Dickmann might feel like the game's got to go on a short timeline anyway. I get to draw up the remand, I get to draw from my draw step, and I get to draw up Desolate Lighthouse. If I find Bolt or Cryptic Command, Snapcaster Mage possibly. You don't like to cast counter spells against a voice, but I think that's a spot where it's correct to do so.
Misty Rainforest, the draw, Mountain in hand as well. Gataxian Probe will be cast here. Thought Season Collected Company. Can he find a way to win it right now? Counterflux the draw. I've seen worse. It looked like he may have been counterflux. It may have been Staticaster because the artwork on those 2 cards is so similar. Dickmann going to come into the red zone here. Maybe.
If Dickmann's draw with Staticaster and he attacks and Stark double blocks, you get to clear out everything.
You do. But also Patrick loses his token.
Yes.
And that's how he's trying to win the game. Of course, the blocks will take place a double block. Patrick will deal lethal damage to the Voice of Resurgence and 1 damage to the token.
Yep.
And then Staticaster gets to clean them both up.
Right, you deal lethal, and then the remaining voice token is a 1/1 with 1 damage on it, and it's all cleared up.
And Ben has the block here. The question is, how will Ben block? He will double block, and you see exactly how Patrick's going to disperse the damage. So a token's going to enter the battlefield. Well, actually, a token, oddly enough, because there's a trigger, actually, Ben won't even get the other token.
Right, yeah.
So,
okay,
either way, Patrick has the ability to kill everything here. So excuse our misstep.
It's all the same. The token is worth essentially 0.
Ben with land number 5. He can't cast Thoughtseize because he's at 2, so he just has to play Collected Company and hope that it resolves. It's Staticaster. That'll take care of the token. Company's going to resolve. So let's take a look at a couple of cards here for Ben. Maybe a little Kitchen Finks action. 6 cards. There's an Eternal Witness in there.
Scavenging Ooze would be great.
2 Eternal Witnesses is certainly interesting. What are we going to rebuy here?
I think he's got to try to get back the Scavenging Ooze and get himself above Bolt range. It's also just going to be a huge threat on its own.
Yeah, stop Snapcaster Mage.
Yeah. But these Eternal Witnesses are not long for the world. Staticaster's going to clear that out. And now the fear is Patrick with his draw steps. Any counterspell he finds is very good. Any bolt he finds kills you, and he has Desolate Lighthouse to try to find either.
Well, Ben's been around long enough that he knows, you know what? There's not a lot I can do about your draw step.
Yeah, he knows he's in real trouble right now. The most likely scenario is that Patrick finds a kill in the next couple turns, but he's got to help. Patrick draws nothing but lands or ineffectual creatures for a few turns. And now what's the best case scenario if that happens?
Looks like Ben is considering Scavenging Ooze and Collected Company.
Yeah, I'm not positive what the second best card is in his graveyard right now, but I know the best one is Scavenging Ooze.
Absolutely.
That one's got to come back.
Ben will pass the turn back. We'll see what Dickmann can do with his draw step right now. He also has redraws with Desolate Lighthouse. Patrick just fixing his sleeves right now. He'll take a draw. Did not get a great look at the card he's found. Static Caster can clear away the Eternal Witnesses. Ben waiting for him to do it. There it is. We might see a Loot House activation. We will. Dickmann will draw and discard. It's a Misty Rainforest, not what the doctor ordered. That's what he'll discard. He has to pass the turn back, it appears. Looks like Ben may have faded not one, but two draw steps. Ben going to quickly untap and take a draw here.
If he gets that Scavenging Ooze in play, he has enough green mana to go up to 4 right now. And that's a really important life total.
Ben with an Inquisition of Kozilek. Dismember's going to bite the dust.
All right. I mean, this is Ben's opening right now.
Yes,
he gets to get above 3. And Dickmann's on 7. He's looking at dying probably on the way back.
Now Ben has to decide. Ben, it's interesting. Do you want to go Ooze or do you want to go Collected Company? You know what you've got with Ooze. You don't know what you've got with Collected Company. I think he's going to take the safer of the two.
I'm just oozing up to 4 and setting up a kill next turn. And Ben's got enough green mana that he can untap. He can pump the Ooze up to a 7/7. Dickmann's got 2 draws at it between his draw step and Desolate Lighthouse. Not a lot of ways to win the game from here. I like this play. Forget Collected Company and just do this.
Snapcaster Mage the draw. That changes everything.
Yeah, now Dickmann still has a chump blocker here. He still has a 1-turn reprieve when he uses Static Caster, even if Patrick misses with his draws here. He's still playing on, but Snapcaster Mage is a big one.
If you have 21 points or more after this round, you are qualified for.
I think Cryptic Command is so versatile in this spot. I guess because of the Scavenging Ooze, Patrick kind of has to do it right now. I was about to say that it's so versatile that you can just pass the bed and it'll trap him no matter what, but you kind of have to do it now.
Yeah. Well, he's going to activate Desolate Lighthouse first. Thragtusk the draw. Jeez. Going to discard a land. Here's Snapcaster Mage. Looks like he has a Lightning Bolt to flash back. Yep, and then finish it off with Static Caster. So, now things have shifted back. Now it feels as though Dickmann's in very good position, but he's tapped out, so perhaps it's Collected Company time for Ben. And it is. Let's take a look at the top 6. See if he can find 2. Eternal Witness is 1, Scavenging Ooze is 2. See what Witness wants to bring back. Don't want to forget that trigger, Ben. You need every card you can get right now, my friend. Perhaps he got back at Collected Company. It's unclear. He forgot the Witness trigger. Oh boy.
I was gonna say either Path to Exile or Collected Company are pretty solid in this spot, but now
I think he got caught up with wanting to remove something with Scavenging Ooze so bad that he forgot to actually get something back with Eternal Witness, and you can tell he's kind of shaking his head right now.
I mean, that's a big one. That is a big one.
You don't see Ben Stark make that mistake. That's an attempt at another Collected Company, a Path to Exile, what have you. Lightning Bolt the draw to go along with the Thragtusk. Static Caster is going to clear that up. Snapcaster Mage is going to come into the red zone here. Dickmann daring Ben to block. He will. Lightning Bolt's going to clear that away. And now the follow-up is a Thragtusk. What a huge mistake from Ben.
Now Ben knows that I mean, I think he would have been in trouble regardless.
I think so too.
but that might be too much.
I mean, especially with especially with Tarmogoyf being the draw here, we could have seen a Tarmogoyf plus Collected Company turn.
Yeah.
And now that's off the table. Path to Exile would make it so that Thragtusk isn't that big of a deal. We're going to see if he can climb his way out of that.
Well, Ben's chump blocking now. He's at 5, and that's how much Thragtusk hits for.
Yep. Lighthouse activation, Lightning Bolt on top. Here comes Thragtusk. Beast token will be left behind. Ben will have to draw something nice here. All he can do is pass the turn back. Dickmann with Lightning Bolt in hand. Beast token attacking for 3. Lightning Bolt going upstairs, and that is going to do it. Patrick Dickmann's going to win this match here over Ben Stark. Teamer Twin will take care of Obzon Company. You can see the frustration on Ben's face. Not a mistake I think anyone expects him to make.
I mean, that was a really tough 3-game set, and, you know, you can't miss any sort of detail on something like that. And that, obviously, an Eternal Witness trigger at that stage of the game. The triggers don't get a lot bigger than that.
You can see a player of his caliber, too, shaking his head. Just can't believe he made the mistake. I'm kind of astonished in the booth that he made that mistake.
Yeah, it's funny, too, on the heels of Dickmann, I think, being a little frustrated with how he sideboarded and what cards were in his deck in game 2, and then seeing that as the conclusion to the match.